Yeah, man, I talk about the bugs. Yeah, man, bugs in my brain. Ain't much a lawyer could do or anything like that, man. It's permanent affliction. You feel me? For example, and I've had it. It's been the case, to be honest, since along with all these other quote unquote embellishments. Like motion sensors and stuff like that. Wired throughout my flesh. That was that was between the ages of 7 and 12, like somewhere below there, and it's like throughout my life, the more I showed signs of becoming anything, for God, that's when I started getting that like for instance, around 2012, 13, they started zoning in on me, because up until that point, what I didn't know was I was being railroaded. When I look back at hindsight, I understand it. If I was being railroaded and led, like they was trying to they was doing things to my life in order to guide me down a path of destruction, or guide me to a certain, way of life and things like that they wanted me to become. They tried to conform me into that. You feel me? Remotely and intellectually, through various types of torturous, intentional infliction and all types of different, methods and measures, and, just tons of things that, they was doing to me, like, below the radar. And that was actually taking place before it was years before I ever started writing. Like, I was still in elementary. You feel me? Like, this when these things started, for somebody's pockets, before that point. And so, around 12, 13, I was writing poetry, and then that's when they started zoning in on me. I didn't know it, though. They seen the kind of stuff I was writing. It was Christian-based stuff, and then 2014, I never forget it. I was doing very, very well. I had my Twitter. I had the year before that. That's when I created my Twitter. And I had this platform called Weekend, and I was posting poems, every few days. And with the poems, I had pictures with them, and then I had descriptions of the poems that I posted. And I was making the top of the list, weekly, probably every 3 to 4 weeks, for a whole year. I was doing very well as an author. You feel me? And that's what Weekend was. It was like a platform for authors and writers and stuff. And I was making a very good impact. You feel me? A very, very good influence for God. And then also on Twitter, I was doing micro poetry back then. You know what I'm saying? The only thing was I didn't have a platform for it, a namely platform for it. So I would just I was writing poems I post back to back. You know what I'm saying? Back to back all the time, with just off the top rhymes and stuff that it never had crossed my mind. You feel me? That such a label or whatever would be put on my life like that. You feel me? Because it's so asinine. You feel me? Because the kind of things I write and was talk about, my mindset was it now that I know that I was being railroaded and that was being goaded by influential figures and injustices, and throughout my whole life, really, all the way to that point, I didn't know that was the situation. But when I look back at hindsight, I realized it wasn't. It was, it had the grace of God. It was the grace of God. It was not the case. You know what I'm saying? It did not, have the desired result, because I still overcame that, because the kind of things I was talking about was abstract, abstract mixed with nature, mixed with Christianity. And it wasn't until I started getting afflicted heavy that I started talking about the affliction. And then when I started talking about an affliction, then that was being used to destroy me with, or to label me problematic. You feel me? Because I was talking about the things I didn't have no help against. I was forced to pay attention to that. And they got increasingly evil with me without cause. And I started getting hundreds of things because I didn't go in the direction that this whole time, which I didn't know since my birth, pretty much all the way to now, they was trying to get me on a set path, something that would destroy me, because of how others had made money off me, or they robbed God. I'm from God and of God, so they know that if they seen the power of God in my life, they know that would I eventually, you know, I was go, you know, become a influential figure for God, you know, and they was waiting for that time. So around 2014, I was doing real good, and then I just got blindsided, you know, and I didn't know why, what, when, or where, but I just started getting like bored, you know. I remember just sitting on my step on my porch one day and just, it just, you know, nothing made any sense, you know. Now I learned, you know, since I've learned about distortion campaigns, smear campaigns, and I learned that those two things were actually launched on my life at the same time. You know, that is like, it's not normal. And that was happening, and that was being launched either it was around that time or a year after that. Because around 2015, I was still writing the same kind of things. It was mostly spiritual based. You know, man, I have a spiritual warfare Bible. I got a picture with it, actually. You know, it was my closest friend. I mean, the word of God, I didn't really, you know, that was it. You know, read Bible and minister to people. You know, I was all over social media, you know, connecting with people, encouraging people, you know, things like that, inboxing people and telling people, you know, things of God, you know, praying for people. I was prophesying over people all via social media, you know, just doing what I was doing. I was very, very active, you know, back then in that year, 2014. And then if you're at the 15s, I was doing very, very well, you know what I'm saying, at 14. Like, it was, as an author, I was taking off good, man. I had, you know, it was good. Then 15, a year after that, you know, it was more of the same. And then some point, because at this point, I didn't know nothing about satanic cults or any of that. You feel me? At that point, you know, I didn't know about distortion campaign. None of the stuff I've been talking about lately, I didn't have no clue about it. But the same things happening now were happening back then too. The same attack I was under the whole time. And so I just didn't understand. And so, I mean, I never forget, it was like a dramatic change for me. You know, I say I was like, and the way I handled it was I was applying the Bible principles to it. I'm like, I'm being heavily persecuted. I'm asking saints all over. I'm like, y'all pray for me. I don't know what's going on, but all of a sudden, like, it's just a whole bunch of evil being launched on my life, and I don't have there's no reason for it, because I mean, the kind of person and the kind of life I live, you know, it was not consistent or compatible with any of the kind of attacks I was getting. You feel me? Like, at all. You know, so I lived the Christian life, church, and then, you know, poetry and things, and I stayed to myself and work. And then, you know what I mean? That's what it is. I didn't know. I didn't realize, you know, the smear campaign, distortion campaign, I was being reached for it, and all of that kind of things without my knowledge, that was creating an environment to destroy me and my family. And that was an attack from the devil, because of my prophetic anointing, you know, I had, you know, because I mean, look at the kind of things now. People see these aesthetics, dynamics, you know, if the devil took me out back then, nobody would ever known that I got my own stuff. You know what I'm saying? Nobody would have never known that the slander wasn't true. Nobody would have never known that all my style is my own. You feel me? And I would have never known that I was actually being slandered until later. I found out about it. You feel me? I didn't know at the time that I was being slandered, and the slanders were creating life-threatening environment for me. And, you know, I didn't know it, but I remember vividly the attacks that I've got, you know, excessively. And that's how, you know, that's how it was. And then, you know, 15 and 16, you know, that's, you know what I mean? Those are the years where I had like this major platform change. And I talked about it, you know, my numbers is like, it's weird. I was doing good till I was getting like 60 to 80,000 hits on my page. That was back then when Twitter had like the little thing you could see your views. You could see who viewed. You see how many views you get. And I was getting like 60 to 80,000 per day, and then it took like a steep drop, like just out of nowhere. And I just didn't understand that. When that steep drop happened, the violence and stuff that happened flared up again. You feel me? And then it just like increased. It was already happening all those years, but then it especially started. And then 17, 18, you know, just was like hell. You know what I'm saying, on earth. Like, it was weird, you know, it was the weirdest thing ever. I mean, it was not a day that I did not get attacked. The whole year 2017. You know, 2018 was not a day I did not have attempted murder on my life. You feel me? Or I was being inflicted with directed energy weapons, you know, even in the privacy of my homes, you know, and workplaces, and all of this stuff was happening the whole time, you know. But this whole time, one thing I did keep doing was I followed the will of God. And then I kept posting, and and I kept speaking the truth. I kept writing poetry, so as this whole time, it's been like a steady attack on my life. I didn't understand none of this was happening. I didn't even know that my, like, from 14 to 15, and those years, like, I was writing things, and I knew I had developed, some standing in the writing community and poetry communities, in the underground poetry and things. But I did not know that my stuff had reached, like, I didn't know that other people was watching my stuff. And this was way before I knew anything about me being actually a target on me since my birth. I didn't know that at the time, you feel me? But so that's why I did not suspect at that time. What I'm saying, like, a lot of things that's evident now was not evident back then when this was happening. Like, I did not even know I had the attention of certain influential figures. I didn't even know certain people knew about me, you feel me? I didn't even know I was being paid attention to or watched, by like some, celebs and stuff, like, to be honest, during that time. But my focus was consistent with what the experiences of my life had taught me. You feel me? I didn't have extra knowledge of things that I didn't go through. You feel me? It would have been impossible for me to have known that kind of reality, when I hadn't been in it. You feel me? So, I had no clue whatsoever that I was actually, known. You feel me? I didn't know I was known. So everything was strange to me. It hit me like a sack of rocks, like off guard. I didn't know that I was, just like the attacks that happened. It just, everything blindsided me for that reason, because I had no idea that I had already had fame on my, on me like that, And then when the smear came and all that, God gave me the wisdom to understand that was being used, to justify things that were already happening to me before I had awareness of it. You feel me? So that's why, so it's just been like a steady demon campaign on the life of this child, on one child, you know what I'm saying? And that's been the case the whole time. I didn't even know that all these things were happening. And so my entire life has been getting chased and conformed, into what people who robbed God wanted to be. You feel me? Like, I've been getting like just trailed. I can't even find a word for it, to be honest. It's like shadow trailed, just followed, like, every phase of my life, like step by step, that, like, the whole time, to ensure that my success or influence didn't reach past a certain point. And if it did, then I would not benefit from it. You know what I'm saying? Because then I would be able to grow more. And, it's one of the most heinous things, like crimes against humanity ever. You feel me? And that's just being honest. And I didn't know none of these things before, they happened to me. You feel me? My sight and insights, of life was fairly limited. I just knew, things of the Bible and the basic stuff. I didn't have any knowledge. I didn't even know I was being slandered or any of that, and I would learn people slandering me to attach me to themselves in order to later destroy me. So somebody's been, like, strategically was doing that, in order to ultimately lead and result in my destruction, and this was all without my knowledge. You feel me? Most of it was without my knowledge. Like, now, that's why I don't even know. I didn't even know I was being slandered by certain influences and entities, because, the way it was did was like 100% in a way to where I would not know about or find out about it. And me focusing and me knowing what my focus was. My focus was on the cross of the Lord. My focus was on the Lord and art, talent. My poetry, the underground poetry community. It wasn't anything like then it's people outside my bracket start lying on me and attacking me out the blue, out of nowhere. You feel me? And I did not, and that right there just got me, and that was like around 14. My first 2 years writing poetry was straight there. And I know it wasn't nothing I said, because I kept the same kind of thing that I talk about all the way to this point. It's just over time I was forced to pay more attention and speak more on, the pain that I've gotten. You feel me? Like, the things that cause me pain, I didn't understand. But now it makes sense, though. I got the bugs in my brains. I was like 7 or 12. That's long before I ever started writing anything. And that was did in advance. And so, I mean, it's been like a rough, I mean, I don't really know. I mean, I know my life was never my own. You feel me? So that helps me to handle it easier. My life was, God gave me life for a purpose that He ordained. So technically I can't, my life was never my own. So all this stuff that was happening was directly to God that it was being did to, because I'm a child, I didn't even know God, had the blessing, what I'm saying, like on my life when I was back then. That's the way I got found. You feel me? And so that's why it was an attack on God, and God go address it like God. You feel me? Like a man, instead of, it being an evil against a child, you feel me? God go address it like as if it was okay, man to man. You feel me? After the child out the equation anyway. And so that's a situation. Yeah, man. Yeah, because that's how I got found, because power of God. It got, God had, he showed His presence to His people, but some people saw it. Some of the wrong people saw it. You feel me? And then they they void the child, for over 2 decades. And that's how it went, but yeah, I was doing pretty good at first though. I just, I had a plan that, like, well, however far I get with this poetry, with this art, I told the Lord early, I said, Lord, if I ever get a platform or, any kind of following or, influence, then I'm going to talk about God and keep the things of the Lord, first and foremost. That was before my fame had rose. I told the Lord that I'd never forget it. And to this day, I'm still on that same note, That was like 6-7 years ago. And to me, it's been a long time, you know what I'm saying? Because what I've been going through, it stretches everything. It makes 1 week. It made a day seem like a week. You know what I'm saying? A week seem like a month, and a month seem like a year. That's how much void I've been getting. Void, like excessive, 365. And I didn't have no explanation for it or who or why it was, but now it makes sense. Some people robbed God, and I'm target number 1 because I'm from God. You feel me? And that's been the situation basically. But I don't look back in bitterness though on my journey. You know what I'm saying? I look at it like, and people ask, some people wonder, they say, why do, bad things happen to good people? Well, sometimes the things we go through are for purposes larger than ourselves. You feel me? And that's my response. That's the best response I could think of, the answer. Sometimes the things we go through are for larger purposes than ourselves. And that's all I can think of, regardless. Because I can't think of any other reason why, a whole world or a whole country would let something like this happen to a child with power and, ability to thwart it, and prevent it and stop it and interfere with it. That's all I can think of, It was for a purpose larger, and it was for a purpose larger to the devil, and it also was a purpose larger for the Lord, but the Lord gonna be victorious,